Ladies and gentlemen, kicking off the first stop on his world tour, our new president and prophet, Russell M. Nelson! You say you want some revelation, well, here you go. It's gonna blow your freaking mind.
Hey, welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the weekly Mormon News Roundup, where Dabel and Al ruminate on the great and spacious beehive. This week, we've got episode 25 coming at you for September 18th, 2022. And this is going to be a doozy because we're going to review the Netflix hit Sins of Our Mother, episode 1. This is such a big a big show, D-Base, that we can't do it in one episode. We're going to have to do it one episode at a time because this thing is just really juicy. We've also got the record-breaking Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints humanitarian donation to the World Food Program, the Fantasy General Conference headlines, and updates on the AP child sex abuse story, and much, much more. So glad to be back with you, D-Base.
Hey, thanks so much for being a part of this program. And if you want to connect with us as a listener, then head over to mormonnewsroundup.org or send us an email to colub@mormonnewsroundup.org. Now, Al, I understand that you were on a vacation to Wyoming with your mother-in-law. Is that right?
Yep, we headed out to Kemmerer, Wyoming, and that's where the first JCPenney store was set up. In fact, there was 2 JCPenney stores there at once. Well, I guess there was the first location and the second location, but let me tell you, Kemmerer after the summertime is kind of a ghost town.
Wow.
We were able to go to one of the few remaining JCPenney stores in the country and see some really overpriced clothes, and that's about it. But other than that, we were able to go around the town, see some really interesting things. They've got also Fossil Butte out there. So if you like rocks or fossils and stuff, then head out to Fossil Butte. That place was really interesting. But other than that, there wasn't. I mean, it's just kind of this tiny little mining community that JCPenney hopped on a train and headed out to Kemmerer with just enough money to start up his own shop and not even enough money for a return ticket. So he was committed.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was an interesting history to go over that town.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been there, but it is somewhat close to the Wyoming City of Rocks. If you like rocks, I guess you'd like Wyoming, right?
Yep, exactly. Yep. If you like rocks, Wyoming's a great place because there's not much else. There's some antelope. Saw some antelope, but no, nothing else, but just a lot of rocks.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Our Mormon joke of the week, right?
I do. I have our Mormon joke of the week. It says, what do you say when Mormons are like, what would be fun? It doesn't matter. It's not going to be fun, no matter what they say.
Okay. Very, very, very good. Okay. That brings us to our first article for this week. And this is, oh, you know what? This link here seems to be having an issue for me. Appellate court here grants oral arguments in the Mormon Church sexual abuse civil suit. So, so what can you walk us through what's going on this particular article, Al?
Yeah. Okay. So it starts off and let me tell you, this article. Go to the show notes, click on the link. If you want to see what Paul Adams looks like, they got this excellent mugshot of him. This big bearded guy that just got this stone cold gaze. It's kind of creepy to see what this child molester looks like. So the LDS Church has been fighting tooth and nail to not have to, turn over stuff, to not have to have their ward clerk testify, because that's kind of the loophole there, is that the ward clerk was in on the confessions and he knew what was going on, and he also didn't report, but he's not covered by priest penitent privilege. So, excuse me. Yeah.
Go ahead. Well, the higher court here is going to allow the oral arguments in the civil suit against Bisbee Ward, and we're talking specifically here about that ward clerk, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, the ward clerk.
Apparently, the ward clerk, he was also a member of the bishopric. Is that that's what I read there? He's also first counselor.
Yeah, he was also first counselor in the bishopric. So I mean, he's been in those leadership positions throughout this whole process, and so I mean, he's privy to what has been happening on when it was happening through both bishoprics. So it's, and the one that just breaks your heart is what happened to that little baby, the 6-month-old, and the fact that they're aware of this and that they didn't report anything. It rips my heart out.
Yeah. So according to this, the ward clerk there, they were trying to say that that the church's lawyers are arguing that the ward clerk shouldn't be able to be subpoenaed because he was part of the disciplinary proceedings, because Mr. Fife here, who is the ward clerk, he also served as a first counselor to one of the bishops, and therefore clergy penitent privilege would apply to him because he was a member of the clergy. He was a member of the bishopric during this period of time. That's what I'm seeing here. So the appellate court, they're saying, hey, we're going to grant the oral arguments in this. We're not necessarily buying that the priest penitent privilege is going to cover Mr. Fife's communications, because as we discussed previous times, that there's been a number of times in which Mr. Adams, the sexual predator here, waived his privilege. So
I mean, that's kind of the real hinge of the argument is, okay, this guy, if he hadn't told anyone else, if he had kept this all to himself and had just kept it between him and the bishop while he was working through, fine, priest penitent privilege, he's got that to stand on. But when you're boasting about it online, posting the videos of the molestations, then you really can't say, oh, well, you can't have my bishop testify because I had confessed to him. It's really disgusting that they would even try to use that argument when he's like, I mean, you've got this guy that's just, there's no stopping him. He's not penitent. He's not remorseful at all. He's just, I messed with my kids, and I, told like-minded strangers across the internet all about it and showed them the video, and they got their jollies from it too. I mean, it's a real sick and twisted thing that's going on.
Sure. And the church's lawyers here, they're representing the bishops and also the ward clerk in this case. They're representing, you have the plaintiffs who are basically on the victim side, and then the church's lawyers, they're lining up against the other side.
Yeah.
And that's very troubling for a lot of people. But basically, from what I'm reading from this particular article is that there's no priest penitent privilege for this ward clerk / first counselor in the bishopric for a number of reasons. So we're going to get to hear more of what happened behind the scenes. And in fact, this particular article talks about the communication, a transcript between Adams and Mousy when he was in prison. The bishop came to visit him, and they said, Paul Adams said, I promise you, Bishop, that it's all out in the open. There's nothing hidden, and I'm getting truly right. I'm getting right with God. And the Bishop Mousy said, well, good. So, I mean, we're learning more about this, and what we're learning obviously is not good.
Yeah, this is, and it's not surprising. Bishops visit members of their ward who have been incarcerated all the time. It's part of what their ecclesiastical duties are, is to look after those who are in prison. But it just doesn't look like the efforts were made at all to heal the damage that was done. So much as just, okay, what can we do to support you? Oh my gosh, is kind of the way that we're looking. It's nefarious.
And as we covered last week, we now know who the particular lawyer is that was representing the church from McCurtain McConkie. It's Mr. Nelson of that law firm. And, when you donate money to the church, some of that money is going to go to help pay for Mr. Nelson and his legal advice that he gave to these bishops. And that legal advice was, don't report child sex abuse. So, I mean, it's going to pay for the lawyers who are also currently representing those two bishops who did not report abuse. So some of your money is going to, child sex abuse. And I saw what somebody, I guess they thought it was funny on Reddit. They rewrote the tithing slip to include one category, which is child sex abuse hush money.
Yeah.
That should actually be a new category, which is kind of sick and twisted. But I mean, money is going to pay victims. Money is going to these law firms for who are telling bishops, don't report sexual abuse. That's where some of the money is going. obviously a lot of people have an issue with that.
Yeah, for sure. And, this is something that the LDS people are very much aware that their tithing money goes to building temples, building church houses, and the maintenance of those places. But maintaining the physical needs of the church also includes defending legal battles in court where bishops are brought in and the church stands to lose. So this is where your tithing money goes to as well. I mean, if just because you think that it's not, it doesn't make it so.
Absolutely. Now we're actually going to discuss more about where your tithing money is potentially going here later on in the show.
That's right.
Now, did you watch the BYU football game yesterday there, Al? Did you catch that?
No, not much of a football fan, but I did read the article this morning. It's big news. The shoe is now on the other foot, should we say?
Yeah, I guess what comes around goes around, Maybe the chickens are coming home to roost or not.
Well, I know my chickens have come home to roost. They're out in the back, and I can hear them clucking all morning.
Yeah. So I don't watch much of the BYU. I am still a BYU football fan. I guess I always will be. I didn't watch the game, but I did watch the replay. Unfortunately, they lost the game to Oregon last night, and it was an away game at Oregon. And this was an article that was put out by thespun.com on just yesterday by Matt Hladek, actually put out just this morning. And what we have in the game, there's the BYU section of the in the Oregon Stadium there in Eugene, Oregon, and they recorded a student section, Oregon student section. They recorded it through a number of different videos, a video that has been widely circulated on social media, eliciting all kinds of feedback from fans. But it basically said, "F the Mormons, clap, 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 clap," and they would repeat that from the Oregon student fan section.
Yeah, I mean, this is how the "Let's Go Brandon" chant started. So yeah, pretty similar situation.
Yeah, I mean, and this is making the rounds on social media all over the place.
Yeah, must have really demoralized the football team because they got spanked. It was 41-20 in favor of the Ducks, and it is. You're right, Dave. It's surprising. Eugene, Oregon. That's a pretty high concentrated LDS place. There's certain places along the West Coast, and that's one where there's a lot of members there. So
yeah, and that's what somebody tweeted out there. They said, "Well, I don't understand these Oregon fans because why are you saying F the Mormons when you have Mormons who are literally on the Oregon football team?"
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
This doesn't make any sense. And Governor Cox, your governor there, Al, he's weighed into this particular thing, and he's denounced it as saying that it is religious bigotry.
Yeah,
is this religious bigotry, or is this just boneheaded fans? What?
Okay, I would say this is probably as much religious bigotry. Well, let's see. No, religious bigotry. I mean, you're using basic. Well, let's see. This is a tough thing to say because according to the church, I mean, it's a horrible thing. Or certain LDS. Faithful Facebook postings have told us lately that saying the term Mormon is akin to saying the N-word. I don't know that I equate the two personally, but this is. I think it's just kind of more of a moniker. I mean, I guess I could have said F the LDS, and maybe people would say, "Well, we don't practice polygamy anymore. We're the LDS, not FLDS." Poor joke there. Very poor Mormon. A little light with the Mormon joke of the week.
That's a bit of a stretch there, but yeah, Spencer Cox. This is at his official Twitter handle. Spencer J. Cox says religious bigotry is alive and celebrated in Oregon. And look, the number of fans that we're talking about here. This wasn't like an entire huge section. This was a very small number of people.
Yeah, you got a handful of people in one part of the stands that just thought, "Hey, this will be funny. Let's do this." And, that's how it goes at football games. People get hyped up. They get excited. They're, everybody's there to have a good time. It's just, this is, sometimes they take it too far. And this is, I think that this was probably done in the spirit of competition, not necessarily friendly competition, but definitely just in the spirit of competition. That, let's see what we can do to demoralize the other team.
Well, I don't remember Governor Cox sending out similar tweets when other viral things have happened. again, this didn't even
Within
happen.
his own state.
First of all, this didn't even happen in his own state. Okay.
Mhm.
Number two, so this is a BYU playing a football game in a different state. None of these people that are in the video are Utahns, but there's been plenty of bigotry inside of Utah. And I haven't heard Spencer Cox weigh in on those and share the viral videos about religious bigotry being alive. It's amazing the selective outrage that the governor seems to have.
Yeah, for sure. If when you're the governor of everybody. So I mean, he has plenty of people of color living within his own state, and we really need to stand up for everybody that you're governing. But yeah, he was pretty silent over the whole incident down at BYU. He didn't weigh in on it, and he didn't even weigh in enough to say, "Well, let's hold on and see what the video shows and see
You're
if
talking about
there
the
was."
volleyball incident. Yeah, he
I,
didn't
I
say
am.
one.
Mhm.
Yeah, he didn't say one word about the recent volleyball incident.
Nope. He just
so when
swept that one under the rug.
Yeah, so when the shoe's on the other foot, oh boy, we're going to tweet this out right away. But then when the shoe's on the other foot, then it's complete silence here. So
Yeah.
selective moral outrage here.
Exactly. And then it starts to look like we're just, combing the internet looking for any way to be personally offended because, Governor Cox, he is active, faithful LDS. And so this is, something that I guess really hurt his feelings personally on a very deep and personal level.
Yeah, he also did. He called for that day of prayer to end the drought. By the way, how's the drought going out there, Al?
I'll tell you, this week we've had a couple of pretty decent thunderstorms this week. We're not out of the drought. It certainly didn't fill up the Great Salt Lake any. But some of our aquifers and reservoirs, at least in the northern part of the state, have done pretty decent right now. And but I mean, that's the problem. Is DVs, we're in such a dire situation here that we're going to be hurting unless the governor does something more than just calling for prayer.
Well, yeah, definitely. I just find it very interesting that after we had the volleyball incident that happened about a month ago on BYU campus, where allegedly BYU students were being racially insensitive, and they combed all of these feeds, they couldn't find anything, but they found about 100 videos of these Oregon fans.
Oh,
Just goes
yeah.
to show you that if there is something, it can be found these days rather easily.
Oh, exactly. They've got and it's like linked in the article that you can see everybody's different videos. So like, with the BYU situation where you've got, one person that comes out and says, "Oh, I heard somebody yelling the N-word," and they go back and comb through all the video and they can't find a single incident of it. I mean, it's a little suspicious, sure. But yeah.
It kind of reminds me of back when Dennis Rodman. You remember when Dennis Rodman came to Utah for the Utah Jazz finals?
Yeah.
This was back in 1997, and he said he also said "F the Mormons." Seems to be a common chant. And he was fined at that time a record $50,000, and he said he was sorry. But Dennis Rodman, he said he didn't even really understand what Mormons were. He thought that Mormons meant Utahns. He didn't even understand that it was a religion.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like calling somebody from Indiana Hoosiers or something like that. I mean, it's like it's a moniker that, I mean, there's certain types like New Englanders calling them Yankees. What are some other things? But they're like, let's see, the Buckeyes of Ohio. I don't know if that applies as universally as something like Hoosier, but that's kind of the idea, right? It's like, okay, well, we've got these. This is a term that you refer to people from this region as, and I think I could see where Dennis Rodman would consider that to be a thing. Because especially here's another point that I'd like to make is not everybody is aware of the LDS Church and its teachings and what its beliefs are, and I think that the LDS people really overestimate the awareness of the rest of the world to their beliefs. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be the case. I do that. You're probably 100% right there. I wonder what is going to happen to these Oregon students because when it happened at BYU, they had people, they moved police officers, they opened up a huge investigation, they had people in the stands, they were combing things, they opened up hotlines. I mean, they practically mobilized the National Guard for this
Yeah.
for the BYU game. And what's happening so far to these Oregon students? Well, the Oregon has apologized, and I guess that's about it. I mean, if you tell someone to go F
yeah.
off, are you supposed to go to jail for that? I mean,
exactly, because I mean, this is the United States, and we do have the First Amendment, freedom of speech protected in there, but not all speech is protected. Certain hate speech comes with consequences. So, was this a crime? I wouldn't call it a crime. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a misdemeanor. It would be a matter of rudeness, and I would think that an apology should suffice.
one would think an apology would suffice, and maybe that these particular students who are involved with that, I don't know, could be banned for the rest of the football games for the rest of the season. That seems to be like the rest of the home games. There's like 5 more home games. They should be banned for the rest of the season. How that seems like an appropriate punishment to me.
Yep.
Okay. So now our next article here, this is from eastidahonews.com. This is posted on 13 September 2022. Man who set fire to 3 LDS churches in Utah ordered to pay over $1 million in restitution. So this was back, this is from St. George a while back. I don't think it was about a year ago. That he set 3 meeting houses. Benjamin James Johnson at 37 pleaded guilty but mentally ill. He burned down 3 meeting houses back it was last August of last year. So after he burned the first one, he immediately moved on to the second one. After that one started burning, then the police sent deputies or they sent sheriffs to all of the chapels, and they caught him in the act of the third one.
Yeah.
And he's been sentenced to 320 days in jail and $1 million. But the problem is that he's mentally ill. He thinks he's a deity, and he's just a really bizarre individual.
Yeah. This one, I gotta say, this article kind of is a little foreshadowing for the Sins of the Mother show that we're going to review up here in a little bit. Because when you've got somebody here that's like, okay, well, I am chosen, I am special, and I am divine, I am deity. And so whatever my will is the will of the Lord. So you've got these people that are mentally ill, and this is what they're doing. And I gotta say, it's pretty amazing that he can get to 3 chapels before getting caught. So the guy was well organized, and he did. I don't want to say a good job, maybe a thorough job is a good word for it, of accomplishing what he set out to do. Because to do damage to 3 building or meeting houses in one night, that shows commitment. And I'm going to be interested to see what his mental competence is, because there's plenty of people that are mentally ill out there, and they think that they speak for deity or that they are deity. And, can you really say a mentally ill person can get to 3 meeting houses in one night before getting caught? Not to mention, it's not small fires. I mean, some of these did big amounts of damage. Yeah,
it was. It's amazing how much vandalism has really been in the news, because it happened after the AP sex abuse. A bunch of them were vandalized in Salt Lake City. I mean, the church has something like, I believe it is somewhere around 14,000 meeting houses throughout the world. And so, I mean, they're a prime target for people who want to take out their grievances against the church for whatever reasons.
Yeah, for sure. And in a place like St. George, meeting houses are abundant. All across Utah, it seems like meeting houses are just one on about every corner, or at least within a mile radius of each other. But not to go on too much of a tangent, I didn't see a single LDS. Well, no, I did see one LDS meeting house in Kemmer, Wyoming. Tons of churches. Only one of them was LDS. It was interesting. A little surprised. Yeah, I thought there would be more surprising. Of a... Yeah, because it's not that far from Utah. I thought there would be a more concentrated LDS population there. But it's a mining town, so yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, hey, our next article here is from the Church News. This was on 16 September 2022, and it says Church to close Colombia MTC effective January 2023. So with its closure, and 5 other MTCs have been closed in 2019 and 2020, the church used to have 14 missionary training centers worldwide, and starting next year, that number is going to be reduced all the way down to 9.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. In 2019, they closed the Madrid, Spain MTC, Santiago, Chile, Buenos Aires, and Argentina, and Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. And so this one is now is it Bogota or is it? It's Colombia. I didn't see the location, but yeah.
Yeah, they're I'm not sure the exact location of. They're closing down another Colombia MTC there. So I mean,
Hmm.
we had a high up to 14, and now down
Hmm.
to only 9. So the
Yeah.
9 remaining ones is Brazil, England, Ghana, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, the Philippines, South America, and of course the
Hmm.
flagship, the Provo Missionary Training Center in Provo,
Yeah.
Utah, which is where I went to. Right? You went there too?
Yep. That's right. We both went to the Provo one. And yeah, I've been like to the one in England, but it was kind of a new thing at the time. It had just barely opened. So I mean, not been through it, but I've been past there because it's like right next to the Preston, England temple. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of becoming a new thing, and it was kind of back in the day as a firm believing member. I thought, oh, this is great. You know, the church is expanding so much that they're having to put up more MTCs around the world to train people. And in fact, like my niece served a mission in Mexico City, and or not Mexico City, it was south of there. But anyway, she reported to the Mexico City MTC, and so it
Yeah.
was kind of exciting. Like, oh, you know, missionaries can go to the place where they're going to be serving, and you know, be trained right there. So it was
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
But now that looks like we're shrinking.
Yeah, the total number of missionaries really spiked there in 2011 when they reduced the missionary age because
Hmm.
that from males from 21 down to 19 and from excuse me, from females 21 down to 19 and from males from 19 to 18, because then you had a whole section of missionaries who were out there at the same time, and that approached about 80,000 missionaries. This was like in 2011. So since that time, missionary participation has really fallen. In fact, anecdotal sources say that only about a third of young men who are Melchizedek priesthood holders,
Hmm.
or who are 19, are going on missions now, which is the lowest ever. In
Oh
fact,
yeah.
the number of missionaries that the church had, we discussed this before, peaked in the late 1990s, where you had
Hmm.
0.6% of all members who were on a mission. Now that number is
Hmm.
0.3%. So only half of the
Oh wow.
missionaries who were going back in the 90s are going on missions now. And so we're
Hmm.
seeing some of these, we're seeing that some of these MTCs are closing down because of the number of missionaries is decreasing. And it's also, pardon me, being replaced by service missionaries. A lot of people are going on service missions instead of proselyting missions, and you don't need to go to an MTC if you're going on a service mission.
Yeah, that's something little anecdote from my own personal life. My nephew was called to serve a mission full time this last summer, and it's a little surprising because his own dad is his bishop, and so they sent him to the MTC, and I guess he got to the mission field for a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, I'm going home," and they're like, "Well." Are you going home, or we've got other options we can explore. We can have you go home and do a service mission. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. So now he's I think we're going to see a lot more of this, where you got young people that it just seems like the rising generation has a lot more. They're more vulnerable to mental fatigue or mental problems, and so it's a difficult thing. It really takes a strain on you to serve an LDS mission, at least the way they used to be. And the church has made some really good strides to alleviate that, like allowing missionaries to call home every week instead of just allowing them to write once a week and then, call twice a year. But yeah, this is something where I got to give props to, the church for loosening the belt a little bit and letting it, you know, letting kids accommodate their needs and make it a little less like they're engaging in human trafficking, because it used to be where the church would be like, oh, give us your passports and driver's licenses, and we're going to hang on to those. And then at the end of your mission, you can have them back. No, it's not like that anymore. They give them a little bit more freedom, a little bit more leeway. But
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I think we'll see a lot more of these kids that opt for service missions instead of proselyting missions. And I think there's a lot more good to be done through service missions. I think this is a good thing myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that missionaries coming home early, when I was a missionary, that was considered a pretty rare. In fact, I would say exceptionally rare. And
Oh, yeah.
anecdotal evidence seems to suggest that is far more common now than it was back in the day. Of course, the church doesn't release all of these numbers, so we don't have it in hard numbers. But and the number of MTCs, some people have postulated that the best way to track a church growth and shrinkage is actually through the number of MTCs, and that would suggest a shrinking in the church. However, you need to understand that more and more missionaries are doing either part or all of their missionary training at home on Zoom. They started in
Yeah.
the pandemic, and they didn't necessarily shut it down for everyone. They realized that, hey, doing a missionary and MTC experience through Zoom works just as easily. It's cheaper, it's better. And so, the fact that some of these are shutting down does not necessarily show that the church, that there's a, shrinkage in the church.
That's true. Because I think this is just more of an example of, well, this is how the church is deciding to streamline the process and how they're trying to, smooth it out, make it more cost effective and economical.
Yeah, I mean, these MTCs, we covered this in the Widow's Mite report. These MTCs, the total amount of money for these MTCs, they're worth a lot of money. So, I mean, if
Yes,
you
they
can save
are.
money, but if you can save money by doing it online and have the experience be just as good. Now, that's the question. The problem here is that if you have a foreign-speaking missionary, he's trying to learn a foreign language on Zoom. I can virtually guarantee
Oh,
you
boy.
that his experience is not going to be as good as if he was doing it in Provo or at another MTC.
They've got half of those kids that come home from foreign missions. They still don't speak the language very well. They have kind of a toddler type understanding of the language, but to even make it worse, to learn it over Zoom and then get dropped into the middle of the country, and then go knock on doors and talk to people. Okay.
Yeah, I have a friend whose son was going out on a mission, or I think he just left. And he's doing most of his MTC through Zoom, and he's only doing 8 to 5. His classroom time is, he goes from 8 to like 11:30. He has lunch for an hour. He comes back on, goes from 1 to 4:30, and he's done. The rest of the day, he's on his own time. I was like, man, how did I miss out on that experience? That would have been nice. In fact, Al, I lived only a couple hundred yards away from the Provo MTC when I went in there. I could have
Really?
I could have easily just walked over to the MTC. It really made no sense for me. Once our classes were done for the night, I should have just been allowed to go home with my own mother and sleep in my own bed and then show back up the next morning. And there's no reason for me to have to stay overnight.
Yeah, because I mean, when especially during those days, that's when the church was at its peak, right? I mean, we're talking late '90s, early 2000s, where, the church needed the bed space, so it really would have been a good measure to make. Because likewise, when I lived in the MTC, I think my parents lived in northern Orem, so like I could have commuted 15 minutes in the morning and the evening to go back and forth. You're right.
Could have easily done it. And I think that they're realizing it, which is why they're doing Zoom stuff, more Zoom stuff now. So we are seeing a shrinkage in the MTCs. We're definitely seeing a shrinkage in the proselyting force and the total number of missionaries. Does it necessarily, is it a one-to-one correlation? Probably not, because a lot of people are doing online stuff these days.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay.
Hey everybody, it's D-Vase here. Thanks so much for listening to the Mormon News Roundup. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Allow me to explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Now, our next article here is this is big news here. We got a lot of big news articles, and that's this was dropped by Tad Welch on September 14, 2022. Why Latter-day Saint leaders just made the largest humanitarian donation in church history, and this was to solve seismic hunger crisis, leads to a donation of tens of millions of dollars for food and other emergency support for 1.6 million people. The church gave out $32 million here this last week to the World Food Program, Al.
$32 million. This is a big chunk of change. This is more than I'll ever make in my lifetime. I mean, you'll probably make about 50 million. So this is just a little bit less than you'll be worth. But yeah, this will be a lot more than I will ever be worth. That's for sure. So, good for the church for doing this. I'm a little surprised, D-Base, and the reason I'm a little surprised is this seems to fly in the face of the statement that Elder Oaks made with in his book, saying that the church's purpose is to take care of the spiritual needs, not the temporal, and the rest of the world can look after the temporal needs, but the church does what the rest of the world can't by providing priesthood and temples and this kind of ecclesiastical service that the rest of the world can't, and the rest of the world can provide food and shelter and all those things. That's the reasoning that Elder Oaks gave for not giving more temporal in the way of those things temporally, right?
Yep. Now, I believe that is correct. We covered that in our previous podcast there from Elder Oaks, kind of peeled back the onion for us as to why the church hasn't done these big things in the past. So now we know what the church, first of all, now we know what the church's largest donation is, because we didn't know that prior to this time.
That's right.
Now we know that the church has never donated more than $32 million to any one particular charity, and now we know that. So that's something to think about. Number two, I believe that this is spread out over about 8 years of total donations. This isn't necessarily a one-time shot, but it's spread over a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that much money takes a lot to get it rounded up. And you can't swallow an elephant all at once, right? You got to take it one bite at a time.
Yeah, and the World Food Program president on the left there, Baron Seeger, he just said how grateful he was to the church at this time of unprecedented need. He said that I'm confident that this gift will inspire others, and this is going to help end global hunger. I mean, this is just, big kudos to the church for this. This is really a tremendous story.
Yeah, this is a huge step in the right direction. I don't know that it will end global hunger. They said it would take, about $1 billion to end global hunger. But I got to say, I mean, this is a huge step in the right direction. I mean, this is, the equivalent of, okay, let's say that if you're a millionaire with $100 plus million in your bank, this would be the equivalent of you handing me $32,000, right, to help me out. So basically, you bought me a car out of your 100 plus million. I mean, that's I'm trying to give it some kind of context or comparison, right? So 32,000, that's a nice new car, right?
Yeah, I mean, the church's estimated total worth is, they have about 150 billion in Ensign Peak, and then they have about $100 billion in real estate. So the church is worth about $250 billion. They gave $32 million of that. That's, I guess that's, what is that, a tiny bit over the 1%? I believe that is it's a tiny bit over 1%.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pretty decent amount, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad to see it. I, for one, I'm very glad to see it. They said that the World Food Program estimates that almost 1 billion people go to bed hungry every night, and this is a big step in the right direction into solving that. Now, the Widows Might Report, they discussed this. They tweeted out a response to this, which, of course, they're the gold standard, I think, when it comes to talking about the church finances. And they said that this was tweeted out on September 15th at 11 o'clock from the Widows Might Report on Twitter. It said, "We hope to see a lot more headlines like this from the church. It would be nice to know if these funds came from surplus tithing or LDS charities, or if the donation was funded out of the church welfare/fast offerings." So that is the big golden question. Where did this money come from? Did it come from surplus tithing, meaning, the church has about $1 billion in surplus tithing every year. They take in about $6 billion in tithing, and the operating budget is only about $7 billion. So they have $1 billion in surplus tithing. Did it come from there? Did it come exclusively from LDS charities? And my understanding here is that most of the LDS charities money is coming from wealthy donors to the church. That's outside of the typical fast offering and tithing channels. Or did it come out of the fast offerings? Where did this money come from? That'd be really nice to know.
Yeah, absolutely. It says at the bottom of the article that the church gives $1 billion in charitable donations a year. And believe that that's including all the fast offerings and, the LDS charities, their welfare square, the canning and bishop storehouses, all of that combined. So, yeah, where did this come from? It says through LDS charities. Is that the source of it? So is it wealthy donors? Is it tithing being funneled through there? Is it fast offerings being funneled through there? Good question.
Yeah. Why not just tell us where it came from? Now, I assume they're here that we've got Bishop Budge here, who's gone over to hand the check over to he flew over to hand the check to the CEO there. So we can, I guess, assume that this has actually happened. I know that this is a big shocker to you, Al, but there's been a number of charities over the years that have claimed that they made donations to particular things, and then they actually didn't make them. I know that would seem shocking, but it's unfortunately all too common. And when you don't open up your books, I don't know. I'm just left to wonder. I guess I take them at their word, but
people say that they have done things that they haven't actually done. For instance, would be taking credit for other people's work and donations.
Yeah, and that's what we discussed with the $1 billion the $1 billion in annual giving. Most
of
that
would be dishonest.
I don't know if it would be dishonest. What I would say is that I think a reasonable characterization of if I give to the church and then the church gives to somebody else, I think it would be a better representation to say that was a member donation, not a church donation.
Yeah, this is very, very much akin to the Relief Society president saying, we're going to collect socks for the homeless. Everybody bring your socks over to the Relief Society president's house. And then she takes them all down to the homeless shelter and makes the donation, saying, oh, the church decided to donate all these socks.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. So this is a great step in the right direction. We've got a long way to go in order to donate what in my mind is the appropriate amount of donation that is necessary. Because like we said, even if we grant that the church is going to give, say, $100 million in humanitarian giving this year, if $100 million, the problem is that there's like 20 million members. That's only $5 per member per year. That's still nothing. That's not enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Because the church is still reporting 16 million plus, right? So I don't know, are we up 17 million yet? But
I'm just giving you a garden. I'm just estimating here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a fair estimate. Mm-hmm.
So, and also the church, when they're reporting how much money that they're giving to charity, they also record the members' donation hours. And I think that the rate that they report that is that they say, well, if a member donates an hour at a bishop storehouse, we count that as a $30 an hour donation. So the $100 million figure of donations that we're going to see approximately for this year, not all of that is cash giving. Some of that is in goods and some of that is in service. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Yeah, exactly. They calculate the hours, giving a certain dollar amount per hour. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So our next video here is our next article here is on the Mormon movie reviews. We dropped another video here review of The Man's Search for Happiness. Al, were you able to watch that?
Yeah, drop it. You did an amazing job. Okay. All right, I don't care what era you grew up in. If you grew up watching Man's Search for Happiness, now this is a video that was made originally in the 60s. Was it 1964 World's Fair that
yes.
So they took it to the 1964 World's Fair, built this replica of the Salt Lake Temple, and as people were going through the World's Fair, they'd play this video for them, and this is basically just the church's most fundamental beliefs, answering the questions of who are we, why are we here, and where do we come from, where are we going after we die. And this is the church's pretty concise. It's maybe half an hour long, the actual video itself. But then they remade it again. And what D-Vase has done, I watched this review, and it's phenomenal. He took both videos side by side and put them up on the screen, and he walks you through both videos simultaneously. He shows you that it's pretty much a shot-for-shot recreation. In fact, it's the exact same narrator. The narrator is our beloved Mr. Harris from Johnny Lingo. What is his name, the actor?
Actually, the narrator is actually Richard Evans, who is
Richard
an apostle.
Evans. Oh, for heaven's sakes,
I forgot. The grandfather is played by Mr. Uri, by Francis Uri.
Yeah, the grandfather was Evans. My mistake. I was thinking of the previous one that we did with the first vision with Joseph Smith. That Francis Uri
Yeah.
is one of the narrators for that. But yeah, this one's phenomenal. You'll see not just the differences between because they did the remake in 1986 or
Yes.
85.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
86.
86, and so they got different cast, but the same narration, and they've got some different cultural ways of showing things, because the church shows that there's some people that like to engage in sin. Well, what does it sin mean in a family friendly kind of video that you can show? And so you'll see some differences there, and then you'll see some of the differences in the way that the world had worked, like medicine. Okay, there's a birth video, a baby comes into the world. We're gonna, in the 60s, doctor pulls out the baby, holds it upside down like a trout he just caught, and
Yeah.
starts throttling its throat to stimulate the vocal cords to get the baby to cry. And then, the mother's just kind of laying there on the table, exhausted, and the doctor hauls the baby off to, do all the stuff. Well, by the time the 1980s came around, there had been some advances in medicine. You see the baby comes out and they give it to the mother immediately, because the skin on skin contact had been, verified at that point that's a pretty important time in the baby's life. So yeah, this is a really good review. I'm going off too long, but anybody that grew up, I don't care which version you watched, you're going to learn something completely new from this. And it's really cool. Go watch it.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, it's only a 14-minute video, but it's an hour and 6-minute review. So to say that it's an in-depth review, I think is an understatement.
Yeah, you guys say D-Vase doesn't do anything but deep dives.
Yeah, and this last week also, this is all on go to YouTube Mormon movie reviews. Just take a look at that. I also reviewed Pioneers in Petticoats in 1969. You recall that film, don't you, Al?
Oh, absolutely. And this is another one where we got the Young Women's Organization being organized by Brigham Young to perform a retrenchment society, because those scandalous young pioneer girls in Salt Lake and the 1860s were just getting a little too scandalous and a little too liberated.
Yeah, all those petticoats, those extra petticoats there, that was a real scandal at the time.
Yeah.
Now, polygamy, now that's not a scandal, but a couple extra petticoats, that's a big deal,
Yeah, for sure. So I look forward to watching that one as well. This is a really good project that D-Vase has been working on, and I'll tell you, like I said, someone like me grew up watching all these videos. You're going to learn something that you never knew before watching any of these. It's excellent.
Now, last thing I'm just going to plug for the Mormon movie reviews, because we're going to move on there, is I also reviewed the banned Mormon cartoon. Have you ever seen that? The 1982 God Makers, that cartoon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That
one.
Yes, I do. It's almost kind of looks like a Hanna-Barbera thing.
Yes, it does. It kind of looks like Johnny Quest.
Yeah, for real, it does. Yeah, it's that same style.
Yeah. It's from that God Makers video, and it's only a 6-minute cartoon, Al, but I did a 2-hour review on it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that's an incredible video, because it just has so much packed into 6 minutes. It is a real challenge for me to review that video. It was very, very difficult. But if you're into a deep dive into the God Makers, then you can go ahead and check out the banned Mormon cartoon, the 1982 version.
For sure.
Okay. We got 2 last articles here to get to for the Mormon News Roundup here. And our next article is the General Conference Dream Headlines. So what's going on with that article, Al?
Okay, so this one, we've got the Salt Lake Tribune, where they've reached out to ask Mormon Line readers to vote for their favorite dream headlines as to what's going to be the topics of the next General Conference. And so it's a doozy. It's an interesting one. It's all in good fun too. David Noyes, September 12th for the Salt Lake Tribune. He's just reporting what all of the Salt Lake Tribune readers have submitted as would be their dream headlines.
Yeah, so the General Conference is coming up here, the most wonderful time of the year. I think that's how the song goes. And we discussed this as our Mormon News Roundup has been around for 6 months, so we were actually here for the last General Conference, and we talked about in the last time, what could the great headlines of the General Conference be? Because the typical General Conference headlines is a couple of new temples are built, and Elder Oaks doesn't like gay people, I guess. That's basically the headlines that are usually come out of General Conference. But what
Yeah.
could they be? And so
Um,
that's what this article is. So let's go over some of these dream headlines of what could come out of General Conference. So
and
can you read
yeah,
us the first one?
yeah, they're pretty good. First one, new 2-member first presidency announced, Curtin and McConkie.
I like the sound of that. Just remember, Al, back in when the church was organized in 1830, that there was a 2-member first presidency. It was Oliver Cowdery and Joseph Smith.
That's right.
The first elder and the second elder, that was the first presidency. So we could just go back to our roots and just make, since Curtin McConkie, as we discussed, they have so much power over what happens in the church. Let's just make them the members of the first presidency. That would just take out the middleman.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Or is it the next one?
Conference center to be repurposed for storage of gold bars.
There could be a lot of gold bars. $250 billion. That's a lot of gold bars.
Yeah, that I don't know that we could pour molten gold into the conference center, but you could certainly at least designate a room to hold enough gold that would be $100 billion worth for sure.
Yeah, at Fort Knox, there's something like, I don't know, there's like $7 trillion. So I don't know exactly how much you can fit, but let's say, the conference center. I think the conference center, I want to say the cost of making that puppy was about $250 million. I think that we know that.
Yeah, it was a big one.
It seems like a good place to store some gold bars. Or is it the next one? Apostles to retire at age 80. What do you think about that?
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, I don't think it'll happen.
Good idea. That is a really, really, really good idea.
Yes, it is.
Who's the Pope there that retired there when he got older and said that was that Pope Benedict?
Benedict, yeah.
Pope Benedict, he just said, I've served my time, I've done God's will, and I'm turning it over to somebody who's younger. We should be doing the same thing in the church. They should be retiring at age 80 so that President Nelson can get out of the state of Utah more than one time every 3 years.
Exactly. He's retired. He's a retired doctor. What retired doctor shouldn't be traveling the world or, going and enjoying some retirement?
Yeah, be an emeritus general authority. You can still interact with the saints. I think that is a tremendously good idea. Or absolutely. Is it the next one, Al?
Okay. Garments are only to be worn in the temple.
That sounds like a tremendous idea.
That seems to be the direction we're going. I find that one to be kind of feasible, really.
Yeah. Remember the church President Nelson redid the Temple Recommend interviews back in 2019. I think it was in November of 2019, and he changed the verbiage on the garment question. It used to be that do you wear the garment of the holy priesthood day and night? Now it says do you wear the garment of the holy priesthood as instructed in the temple? So that seems to be taking it down a notch from all the time to whenever you want to.
Exactly. So I could see that one happening. Sure.
And remember, Joseph Smith, was he wearing his garments when he was in Carthage jail?
No, he wasn't. In fact, Willie Richards was the only one wearing his garments. And that
is correct.
Kind of became a thing of church folklore that, that's why we got to make sure we wear the garment because it will protect you from being shot in Carthage jail.
Well, what's good enough for Joseph Smith and Hiram Smith, I think, should be good enough for the rest of us. So I'm all in favor of that one. By the way, this is all supposed to help us ignite your momentum. That's for this general conference. That's what President Nelson wants us to do, ignite your momentum. Well, if you made some of these changes, I guarantee the momentum would be ignited.
For sure.
Or how about this next headline? Biden won the election, so everybody should stop lying about it.
I like that one. Yeah, let's come out and just make a firm stance, okay? Just say what it is.
You're supposed to speak truth. So you can answer the question. You can answer the question for us. Take leadership position in the world. You're the world faith leader. Take a position and be the leader.
Yep. Draw the hard line,
Right. Okay. Or is it the next one?
Voting for Trump voids temple recommend.
Oh, boy. I don't know about
that. Yeah, I mean, that's something where I don't think the church could ever do it because the church is not allowed to make or to get that involved in politics. But, I know that there's plenty of, at least there's, first of all, the church seems to be predominantly Republican. So Yeah, I couldn't see the church saying, "Oh, you can't vote for the Republican candidate."
Well, if you think back to Proposition 8, the word on the street is that some bishops, if
Hmm.
you were not on the correct side of Proposition 8,
Hmm.
especially if you were in California, if
That's
you were
right.
going against the church on that, then
Hmm.
your temple recommend was called into question because that was a divine fiat.
Yeah, it was. I forgot about that. You're absolutely right.
So to say that the church has never done something like that in the past, I don't think is accurate because it has
Hmm.
happened in the past.
Yeah, you can't say that it's never happened. It's not supposed to. You can certainly say it's not supposed to, but yeah, they have definitely done that.
Yeah. Or how about this next one? A new instead of a third temple in Brigham City, how about a new temple in Jerusalem?
That's a really cool one. I could see them because when I was at BYU, and when I'm sure when you were at BYU, you probably heard the same story that the BYU Jerusalem Center, where people can do a semester abroad in Israel,
Hmm.
um, they said that the walls inside there, they have some moving partition walls where at a moment's notice, they can move some of these partition walls and instantly convert the the Jerusalem Center into a temple. Uh,
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah, and maybe that's just Mormon folklore that I had when I was at BYU, but maybe it's one of those three Nephite stories, right? I mean, but even so, if that's possible, like and they said that, like, oh yeah, they can turn that into a temple, a functioning temple, at a moment's notice. So, like, if we
Wow.
have a couple of missionaries that get called to Jerusalem, and then World War III starts, and they close off the city. Well, there's supposed to be a temple in Jerusalem at the time when the second coming comes. So then they can just convert the BYU Center into a temple. Never been
That's
there.
interesting.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
That I've got to go there and check that out someday. It reminds
Yeah,
me
for
that
sure.
the church with they have 400 temples announced or under construction, but the two most important temples haven't been done, and that's the one in Jerusalem and the one in Independence, Missouri.
That's
What?
right. Hmm.
The two most important temples are still not even announced. So,
Absolutely.
uh,
In fact, I believe it was DNC 84 that Joseph Smith said that the one in far west Missouri was going to be erected in by this generation. So, yeah,
well, if you can live to be as long as President Nelson, maybe you'll be able to make that
yeah,
happen.
exactly. So, President Nelson, get your gold shovel out and let's go start digging.
Okay, our next General Conference headline: Salt Lake Temple renovations will include solar panels on the top.
Okay, I'm on board with that. That'd be cool.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's got that big old uh, roof that's kind of peaked down the middle. Sure, throw
Yeah.
solar panels on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's be environmentally friendly. We're letting some of the temple lawns go brown. Why not
Hmm.
also be more environmentally friendly? Put some solar panels on those puppies.
For sure.
For the next headline, Al, what's the next one?
Counselors in bishoprics will include women.
It's
That would
about
be
time.
cool. This could be
Wow.
really cool. Like, I know that the church is starting to make some strides in the right direction there with equality in women, but it's baby steps. You can't steer this ship on a dime. It takes time for that to happen. So I don't think that'll be this conference, but hey, maybe 5 years hence, we'll see.
Yeah, why not? Or how about the next headline, which is the church relaxes the word of wisdom hot beverage stance to just in moderation, or just in fact changes the word of wisdom back to the way that it was, which was
Hmm.
not by way of commandment, but
Yeah,
by way of it was just a recommendation. Let's just go
yeah.
back to the way that it used to be.
I think that would be very popular amongst the young LDS group because I know that there's a lot of people, young people in the church that they have seen that there's like some really cool drinks at Starbucks and Dutch Brothers and Dunkin' Donuts, and they don't want to be left out from their group of friends. So it's got a little coffee in it, but it's mostly just frothy sugar. But yeah, I mean, I could see the church relaxing their stance on that, especially since we've come to find that, like coffee and tea, there, there's a lot more benefits health wise than problems. So,
Yeah, there is. There's no reason to keep people out of heaven and out of the temple for eating an evil bean.
yeah.
Let's just relax that puppy back to the way that it originally was.
Hmm.
I think it's a great idea. Or how about this next one? Church asks for your prayers on how to bring gays and lesbians back into the fold.
That's going to be an interesting one.
I don't think that would happen. Remember, these are dreams.
Yeah, exactly. These still. It seems like the church's stance is still trying to pray the gay away, or at least to pray the gay at bay. Maybe like, okay, don't give in to your carnal urges, but yeah, you can be gay, just don't act on it. As it seems to be essentially the church's stance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, or how about the next one? New monument announced to honor the church's first lady, Fanny Alger.
I really like that. Somebody's out there trying to stir the pot.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to say that. That would be nice, though. I guess she is. She is kind of the first lady in a manner of speaking.
Exactly.
Or BYU rescinds waiver of clergy confidentiality and vows to stop mistrusting faculty. We covered this a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I don't think that would ever happen.
These are dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man can dream. Man can certainly dream.
Speaking of dreaming, this next one I think would be the most shocking of all the headlines. What is it, Al?
Oh, my goodness. Could you imagine? Quote, I would like to apologize to the LGBTQ plus community, unquote. Oaks says in historic talk.
Now, that's a headline that I can get behind. And I promise you that headline would travel around the world faster than anything you've ever seen before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that one would be a shocker.
Yeah, it would be. I don't know which would be more of a shock, the Fanny Alger or that one. It's hard to say. Or how about the next headline, Al?
A full disclosure of how tithing money is spent. Positive, sure, but likely, no, not really.
No. You just need to have a church login and you'll be able to see what's happening with your donation. Okay, when you donate to another charitable organization, all of the major organizations in the United States, you get to see an impact statement saying, "Hey, my $4 went to $3 of it went to this, 50 cents of it went to that, and 20% went to overhead or whatever it is." Yeah. You get to see an impact statement. How about the church does the same thing?
Exactly. I mean, shoot, even the Red Cross. I got a text message about a year ago after donating blood. And after, I think, about a month, they had kept it on ice, and they sent me a text message that says, oh, just so you know, your donation went to save somebody's life. Like, wow, that's a pretty dang cool thing, I thought. So with the church, I know that like with a lot of organizations, in fact, the great majority of them will tell you, this is where the money that you donate is going to and at what percentages. So really the only kind of organizations that don't disclose that are, kind of shady.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, or how about the next one? The church decides to build a chain of homeless centers in several major world cities.
Once again, that would be an excellent step in the right direction. Goes completely against what President Oaks said. But hey, okay, I would love to see it happen.
Yeah. Or how about the abuse hotline is moved out of the out of the risk management department to the social services department. It's hosted by actual social workers, and the church ends the hotline relationships with lawyers.
Somebody out there has been listening to this podcast, because that's exactly what Dive's whole idea was, right? That, hey, the church could go and establish a good social network or a social service network here that provide a shelter in every stake and to provide a health or a mental health counselor and all of this. The church could make some really good headway there. I
don't think that the church needs to get rid of lawyers altogether.
No.
I mean, so I'm not necessarily in favor of the church not having a relationship with lawyers.
Yeah, we can cut the addendum.
Yeah, the purpose of the lawyers should be to help victims, not to mitigate risk for the church as a whole.
For sure.
Or how about this next one? The church reconfigures all buildings to enable drive-up tithing.
I like that. So they can put a drive-through in all the buildings. That's something that I could see. One of the top apostles, maybe a Jeffrey Holland type, to say, well, that's what we should do, is a drive-up window, not realizing that we're in a day and age of Venmo and Zelle, and, like people can just, you don't even have to drive up to the window to make your donation, right?
Yeah. Or how about the? Can you read us the next dream? These are all dreams
Oh,
here.
these
A
are all
personal
dreams.
dream. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What's the next headline there?
Multi-level Mormonism plan revealed. Members to
Uh-oh.
receive back 2% of future convert tithes. So that
Yeah.
means that if I convert you, and then you go out and convert 3 of your friends, then you're going to get 2% back on your tithing for all of those 3 friends. And then when those 3 friends go out and they grab 3 friends each and convert them to the church, then all those 3 friends from each of them will trickle up, and you're going to get 2% back from those 3 friends too. And we're letting you all in on the ground level here.
Hey,
right?
you want to talk about igniting your momentum? I'm going to tell you that would ignite momentum like you've never seen before.
And Utah is, as a state, are complete suckers for multi-level marketing schemes. So this would definitely work.
Absolutely. The next headline is Donny Osmond is called to serve as a 70 because any dream will do.
Hey, why not? He's earned it.
No.
He's been he's been a good front man for the church out on the world stage. He's done a good job. So call him to the 70.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Or how about the church actually decides to canonize the family proclamation?
That's something that I'm kind of surprised hasn't already been done, because they talked about it for has it been 20 or 30 years now that I think it's been about 30 actually.
1995.
95. So we're almost 30 years, right? It's about time. They've been talking about it for 35 years. Go ahead and canonize it, unless of course this legal document is not going. If you're looking to scrap it, then scrap it. But it's one of those things where I think it's like a boyfriend that, I'm going to propose to you someday, but I'm not ready yet. So I just want it to be perfect. And commit or don't commit. Come on, man.
Yeah. How about just canonize anything? Forget
exactly. Yeah.
Or how about the next headline? It says that the church leadership changes the name of the Book of Mormon to the New American Testament, because we want to get rid of the name Mormon, and that would be a victory for Jesus. So a New American Testament instead of the Book of Mormon. How about that? Does that sound good?
I like that. I like that almost as much as President Nelson would like that.
I do like the sound of that New American Testament. It has a nice ring
American
to it.
Testament. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why not? Or how about the next headline, which is church donates half of Ensign Peak to help end world poverty. Forget 32 million. How about 32 billion?
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah,
one can dream.
The next possible headline: other charitable group donations accepted as tithing. So-called trendy tithing will be acceptable.
Yeah, that one I would like to see that happen. Because that's something that a lot of people can get behind and support, because then they can directly see the good that their tithing is going towards. People work hard for their money. They make these donations because they want to be obedient to the commandments, or because they're just good people that want to see some good done in the world. Let's respect that. Hey, I'm all for that.
Or the final dream headline is no more cleaning chapel toilets. Boy, that would be really something.
Oh my. Well, somebody's got to do it. Because otherwise it's not going to take very long before people aren't going to want to go to the bathroom at church. So it's a good thing they shortened it to 2 hours. I think you can hold it.
Yeah, this takes us to our Mormon News Roundup question of the week, which is what is your dream October 2022 General Conference headline? So you can come on over to Anchor and you can interact with us on the question of the week. We also have a poll of the week there, Al. Mm-hmm. And can you read us the question of the poll?
Yeah, question on the poll. How do you feel about the LDS Church's record-setting donation to the World Food Program?
Is it number one?
Number one, a huge testimony builder. I testify that Bishop K. Todd Budge is a prophet, seer, and revelator. Wait, is he? But
so he's the one who went over there, right?
Bishop
K. Todd Budge.
Oh yeah, and I love his quote that he had in that article, which we didn't read about. I want to quote it real quick here. He says, "The more that we donate, the holier it makes us, and the more it benefits us." Something like that. It was something like that. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Now, I testify that Bishop K. Todd Budge is a prophet, seer, and revelator. Wait a minute, is he? Actually,
Yeah.
the percent, no, he's not actually.
No, he's
No,
not part of the Q15, so no.
no, he's not. He's not. Okay, or is it number two?
Number two, I'm a bit concerned actually. What if we can't afford to build a third Provo, Utah temple?
Yeah, I know.
Because
I mean, money. Yeah,
there's
it's
only so many billions of dollars to go around.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Or is it number three?
Worried that the Ensign Peak Second Coming Rainy Day Sacred Not Secret Fund may run low.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
could be running low after this donation. You gotta
yeah, really
keep
good.
that up there.
Yeah,
Or is it number four?
number four, hopefully the people who are fed by this donation's food will quickly join the church to pay it back with interest.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of interest never hurt anybody, did it, Al?
Exactly, and that interest is it's going to be continually paying 10% going forward, right?
You betcha. So
Yeah.
if you come on over to Anchor, you can interact with us on this particular poll. You can also, if you're on Anchor, you can leave us a voicemail. We're also, you can find us on Twitter. We're at News Mormon, where you can come over to Patreon. We're on Facebook, and we're on YouTube as well.
This podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Signature Books, www.signaturebooks.com. We invite you to check out their latest book written by Romney Burke, which is entitled Susie Young Gates, Daughter of Mormonism.
Brigham Young had over 50 wives and 56 children, but none has better name recognition than daughter Susie Young Gates. She lived from 1856 and died in 1933. Yet she, like so many women of Mormonism's past, has remained a mystery to most church members. In Susie Young Gates, Romney Burke, the author, paints a portrait of a strong woman who rose to prominence within the church, fought for the rights of women throughout the country, yet dealt with personal trials and her share of heartbreak.
And that's going to take us into our final and feature article of the week. So,
Yeah.
did you watch the first episode of Sins of Our Mother?
I don't dare go into the second episode because this thing, I can just tell that this show is flowing so seamlessly these days that I had to stop myself. And yet I can't wait to jump on tonight. In fact, it won't even be tonight. It's going to be right after we're done with this recording. I'm going to watch it. Episode 2. It's so good. The Lori Dabel scandal is the theme of this whole thing, and they go into what Lori Daybell's past was like. You get to see her family, her surviving son, which is the oldest of her kids. Lori Daybell had like 4 or 5 husbands. I mean, she really was a serial monogamous person. Had a lot of husbands, one of which was killed by her brother. And there's a little bit of suspicion around that. Was it self-defense? Was it not? The brother did call the police to report it afterwards, and he didn't get sent to jail. But you get to find out a lot of this, and you start to see that Lori Daybell, one of the things you find out right off the bat, they're a very strong LDS family that she comes from. That her parents they raised them in the church, and they went to church very faithfully every Sunday, and they're just good, decent LDS people. But there's a lot of delusions of grandiosity or grandeur. There's a lot of what would you say? Of narcissism. Good word for it too. So yeah, did you watch this one, D-Base?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really gripping. I felt like I actually needed to watch the episode twice because I haven't gotten a chance to watch it the second time because it is quite complicated with all the relationships of the people that were involved. This is a really in-depth documentary. So basically, the friends, family, and experts, they're weighing in on Lori Vallow Daybell's change from a doting, from a great LDS Mormon, very faithful mother to a apocalyptic, a crazy apocalyptic person.
Yeah.
And just that transformation is really quite shocking.
Yeah, and the way that she talks about herself, like they have a lot of recordings from different phone calls or voicemails or even her own podcasts. She was a podcaster that had The Fire Within, I think, was her podcast, and they got kind of out there with their ideas about what it means to be one of the few chosen here in the latter days. And, I mean, she was very true believing Mormon, true blue through and through. She followed the standards, and but she also really loved fame and fortune. They go into, she was a beauty pageant contestant. She was a contestant on the Wheel of Fortune, loved being in the spotlight, loved being the center of attention. And so it's, her personality just kind of, it starts to go a little haywire where she starts talking about things about the end of times and whatnot. And her one brother, let's see, there's two brothers, and they have both have A names. Yeah, Alex. And was the other one Adam?
I don't remember. I think
can't,
so.
Adam or Andy, I can't remember. But he was level-headed was the other one. Alex is the one that he got involved with, like, hey, let's read some of this stuff from, Doomsday Preppers and all of that end of times apocalyptic stuff. Then she starts buying into it a little too heavily, and she starts talking about, I've been ministered to by angels. I've been ministered to by the angel Moroni himself.
He gets around, Al, without question.
I gotta say, I mean, this is something where here's a point that my wife and I were talking about this. If the angel Moroni is not a real being, doesn't that kind of just pull the rug out from all of it? Her whole thing, because I mean, that's what she's saying. She's based on you listen to all this as a whole, and if one of these things doesn't fit into place, then she's a nut. She's a kook, and she is a dangerous person.
Yeah, I mean, she started off as being a devoted mother, even though she was on her third marriage to Charles Vallow. She started becoming very receptive to the somewhat crazy apocalyptic end times prepper teachings of Chad Dabel, who was based out of Idaho, who basically his idea was that there's only going to be 144,000 of Jesus's most beloved followers, and he's the one who's going to know who those 144,000 followers are if you follow him and his teachings.
Yeah, Chad Dabel, he's an interesting character in this whole thing, because and anybody that's gone to church knows that one guy in the elders quorum that sits off to the side and has some kind of out there ideas that he keeps bringing up and talking about, and everybody's like, doesn't really know what to say after his comment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Brother Daybell. Now back to the lesson. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of those guys that, he just honestly, he looks a little off when you're looking at him.
Oh yeah. And he's been a faithful LDS guy, and a real sad story about his wife. And they talked about how his first wife, he'd started dating her right after his mission, and they're like, I think that she's the very first person he ever dated, really. And they got engaged, got married, had a family together, and before he marries Lori, all of a sudden his wife disappears, and they're like, oh, she left him. Oh, did she?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Following this family's family tree for me is really difficult because there's so many marriages and so many people involved. But basically, one of Lori's brothers, named Alex, he eventually ends up shooting Lori's third husband, Charles, to death because basically, she thinks that Charles is actually dead inside, and that the body that he inhabits is actually being run by a demon.
Yeah, and she calls him by a different name, his Rick Schneider or something like that. It's weird. Yeah,
I think it was Ned Schneider.
Ned Schneider, that's the one. Yeah, that's what it was, and it was weird. Yeah. She starts calling him by a different name, and he calls the police. In fact, you got the police footage there from their body cam, and they're like, "So what's going on?" He's like, "My wife is losing her mind, and I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it." But she thinks that I'm not me. She calls me by a different name, says that, I'm a demon and all this. And he's like, I'm very concerned for her. And here's the really creepy part about it, Dives, is that she goes to, he orders a psyche eval. She passes the psyche eval.
Yeah, so Charles reports that she is mentally unstable and threatening his life. Therefore, the police come in and intervene, saying, hey, you need to get psych evaluation, and she's able to get through all of it with no problem.
Exactly. So she knows how to turn it on and turn it off. And that's really creepy to me, is the fact that she's like, okay, and that's something from like beauty pageant days and, being in the spotlight, is how to behave when other people are around. But then when you hear her behind closed doors, then the crazy comes out and, she gets a little too much time by herself and things get weird. Yeah.
I am definitely giving this a thumbs up. I feel like I needed to watch it twice. Maybe in the first episode, they might have tried to pack too much into this first episode. That's my only criticism of the episode.
Yeah, and, this could have been maybe even split up into multiple episodes beyond this. But, I mean, it's loaded. And it's a great show, well made. It's a lot easier to follow than some other of these true crime documentaries I've seen or exposés. But this is a good one. So
we're gonna review the second episode there for our next week, right, Al?
Absolutely, because this one's I don't even know what to compare it to. D-Vase, this one is such a good, well-made one. It's like Under the Banner of Heaven was an interesting one. Like this one, I would put this one above the Mormon No More, personally. I think that this one's a true crime story that everybody can appreciate and at least be entertained by. And it's not so Mormon-y Mormon that I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but there's not so much Mormon lingo that I don't think that someone who's never been LDS could understand it. It seems like they kind of dial it down enough that you can understand what's being said. So anything else on this one?
No. I'm looking forward to episode 2. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
Yep, thank you all very much. We want to give a shout out to Weird Alma for this episode's music. Thanks so much for ruminating with us on the Great and Spacious Beehive. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing. And we'll see you all next week.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a being with no moral constraints. My number one goal is to hurt the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.